This is Slidell Burton, the esteemed mayor of Steeds Ridge. The head honcho, if you will. And you are going to listen to my favorite show, Let's Find Out with co-host Diego. And that's how it's going to be now, you hear?
The borders of space and time have opened once again, and transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's time once again for Let's Find Out with Diego. The universe is waiting for you.
All systems go.
On this episode of Let's Find Out, our guest is the founder and leader of the Crypto Crew, an organization specializing in cryptozoology and paranormal research. With over 2 decades of experience, he's an accomplished filmmaker and author of the new book, Mysteries Unlimited Kentucky, offering a unique perspective on the mysteries that surrounds Kentucky. All this plus more. Please welcome a good friend to our show and author of the book, Mysteries Unlimited Kentucky, Thomas Marcum. Thomas, my friend, welcome to Let's Find Out. This is your first time on this version of the show.
Yes, it is. I appreciate you having me on. I know you had tried to get me on sooner, but as you know, my life's been kind of running in circles and upside down for the last little bit. So I'm sorry it took me so long to actually get to come on the show, but I'm glad to be here.
No, I'm super happy to have you here, brother. And that's okay, because every time I turn around, you're always doing it. If it's not a book, it's a documentary. If it's not a documentary, I mean, you're also publishing other people's books with Zombie Media, so I don't know how you invent time, but you're doing it.
Well, I'm not as productive as I used to be. At least the last couple of years, I've not been as productive. But this year, I seem like I'm off to a little better start. I've turned out one film. I'm in the middle of editing 2 other films, and I don't count the ones that I published for other people. I got a few of those lined up, and plus I actually got a book out this year, and this is breaking news, I guess. By the time this episode comes out, I'll have actually another book out in the Mysteries Unlimited series.
Man, I haven't even caught up yet. I'm almost done with it. And my recollections with Mysteries Unlimited, that was not a book series. That actually didn't that start as a podcast?
Yeah, it actually was a podcast with me and Leo Frank. And we had, we done probably 20 some episodes. And then Leo had some health problems, and I had some personal problems with my dad passing away and things like that. And then I did actually do another episode. That's probably been about maybe 2 months ago, which it turned out to be a good episode. But I've not been able to get back to it. But something interesting about that, one of our episodes was flagged by YouTube and not allowed to be shown on there, which was disappointing, because you go to the playlist, you got the list of all the episodes, but you got one that's missing. So what I had to do, I had to put it over on Rumble, so people can listen to it on. And the thing is, there's tons of episodes on there from other people about that same topic, which was the satanic panic back in the 80s. For some reason, I wasn't allowed to do it. They knocked it out, and I wasn't allowed to have that episode on there, but other people have it. I don't understand it, but it is what it is, I guess.
No, and I lived during that time, and
me too.
That was a big thing, because I believe that kind of stuff started mid 70s and ran through the 80s, and a lot of it was a gimmick, but a lot of it was the true blue stuff, man, because you had bands singing about the most awful things, a lot of satanic imagery, and that's somebody's cup of tea. That's fine, but I'm not saying there's limits, but sometimes a little over the top.
Well, now we had some I guess you call them groups or whatever, that was practicing in our local area. One place was under a bridge. That's fairly close to where I live, just a few miles. And we went, us being young boys, we went and checked out what was going on under the bridge, during the daytime, of course. And there was bones everywhere. There was blood everywhere, stuff rolled everywhere, dead animal carcasses. But what had happened there, from my understanding, they was gathering under this bridge every night, and there's houses that were close to it. and one of the people who lived in the house, it was really aggravating them. So they called it an old man. Used to, if he was 50, he was an old man. Then when you get 50, it's not really that old. Shot one of the guys with a shotgun, and so that kind of what ended them practicing Satanism, I guess you call it, up under the bridge there. But it was a real thing in this area.
Now, with talking about the man that was shooting these kids or these people performing these rituals, was it more of their trespassing, or was it because of what they were doing?
I think it was mostly because of what they were doing, and he couldn't get anybody out there to stop them or make them leave. And it was just every night fires and chanting and a big gang and that type of thing. And he ended up shooting one of them, is my understanding. That was probably 1986, 87, somewhere around that area.
Wow. And because I know Kentucky, I'm not going to say has issues with bridges, but I know there's also a bridge where a famous cryptid is known for. Is it Pope Lick Monster?
Pope Lick Monster, yeah. Sometimes they just call it the Goat Man. It's got a couple of other different names as well. And there's been several people who get on the trestle and they get hit by the train. They don't realize it's actually an active, railway. And once you get out there, there's no place to go. So either you jump and fall to your death, or you get hit by the train and die. I think the last one that happened was probably about 3 years ago. And I think the girl was 16 or something maybe 4 years ago, but she was like 16-year-old or something.
That's pretty recent.
Yeah. Actually, I think I talked about that, and I can't remember if it was in one of the books or I think it was in one of the books about that. So, of course, I see a lot of stuff and read a lot of stuff and investigate a lot of stuff. So sometimes it gets kind of jumbled on where it's at.
True story. Because as I'm trying to write my second book, and I already wrote the chapter on the Pope Lick Monster, and I went to you asking you, hey, a little bit more information, which thank you for letting me know some more about it. It seems that it's a very foolish venture in a way. So let's say this goat man is actually on the bridge. I don't know why somebody would want to go find it, knowing what could happen.
Yeah. Sometimes they say it will also call to you like a child or a woman or something like that, and maybe that's what lures them up there. They think somebody's up there injured or hurt or needs help, and then they get up there and it's something different.
Yeah, sort of like some sort of telepathic, or is it more verbal, you think?
I've heard it both ways. I've heard that people hear it audibly, and it kind of draws them to it. So I don't know. To my opinion, there's probably several different things going on in that area. You got probably Goat Man, you got some paranormal stuff, and you probably got some Bigfoot stuff all kind of connected there at one spot,
Have you ever been there?
No, I've not been. I have not been there.
Yeah, what was that, Louisville, right? Close to Louisville?
Yeah, close to Louisville, yeah. I don't particularly like to travel, to be honest with you. I do sometimes, but I don't particularly like to travel.
No, yeah, I'm the same way, because after all those years back when I was active in wrestling, I think it was 18 years, I kind of think I'm good. I'm not saying I've seen the whole country, but I've seen a lot of the country.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, we usually take a trip to Michigan, usually about one time a year, but I've not been able really to go much the last few years. It's just a long trip. My back gets hurt, and I don't like to stop. Once I'm traveling, I've got a destination, I don't like to stop unless I have to. So it makes it just worse.
No, I do the same thing. I don't drink too much water, eat too many snacks. I just want to get there where I need to go. And now, in the spirit of talking about Mysteries Unlimited, the Kentucky version, this is the second book in the series, correct?
Yes.
And with the topics you cover in that book is obviously, from the title of the book, you're basically mostly in Kentucky, because that's where you're actually, not only where you live, but you got the most experience exploring the state. And for those that haven't read the book yet, what is some of the topics that you're covering there?
Oh, there's a whole range of topics in there. There's one that I'm particularly really like is of a phantom police car and a police officer. I won't give the exact locations and all that kind of stuff because I want it to be kind of a surprise type thing for people. But I really done some digging on that story. The police car is, they say, is a 1953 model, and some of the folklore surrounds it. I was able to search for police officers that were killed in the line of duty in the particular way this man was killed. And there was only one person during that time frame that was killed in that particular manner. So there's a very good possibility that I put a name to that legend of a fallen police officer. So I think nobody else, as far as I know, has ever connected the dots on that. But I went through police records, death records, memorials, and things like that, and newspaper articles, and actually show, if I'm not mistaken, I did put a picture of the fallen officer in the book.
And how long did it take you to research that particular story? Because if you're going through all these records, I would assume you spent an awful lot of time.
Yeah, it did. It took me quite a bit. It took me quite a bit of time to do that. But thankfully, with the power of the internet, you can narrow things down pretty quickly. Sometimes it takes a while to get to where you want to go, but once you get there, you can get through the records pretty good. But there's a lot of stories in there too about just different places in Kentucky. A few here in Bell County, some in Harlan, haunted locations. There's one in there about the Waddy werewolf, which was kind of a cool story. That actually had some newspaper articles attributed to it where livestock was killed in an unusual, peculiar manner. A lot of interesting stuff. It's not just, there's a couple Bigfoot story type things in there, but a lot of it is more of haunted locations and some stuff about the old Corbin Municipal Hospital and things like that.
Yeah, a little more variety, because I understand, at least for me, that Bigfoot is probably the most popular thing in the world when it comes to when you start doing research or field investigations in Bigfoot or Yeti or Sasquatch, or even now Dogman. Dogman's becoming a big thing as well. Now, you have many, many years experience in researching, investigating with Bigfoot. Has there been an increased sightings in Kentucky of Bigfoot?
I've been doing this almost 30 years, or roughly 30 years. Once the coal industry kind of fizzled out in this area and the logging kind of fizzled out in this area, there was an increase in sightings. But I think it was due to the increase in population in this area. You don't have the big machinery running and all the people going in and out of the coal mine and the logwoods and things like that. So I guess they either migrated into this area, which I don't like the word migrate because I don't feel like they really migrate. They moved into this area and probably started having offspring and things. And, I've had people who don't believe in Bigfoot or just totally dismiss it. They really need to get out and do some serious research about it, even if you do it online. Of course, there's a lot of people who are just making stuff up or whatever, but I've actually seen it. I've tracked it. I've found thousands of tracks, had several visuals, captured some evidence as far as audio and game cam stuff and stuff like that.
Have you also seen an increased number of these structures as well?
Yeah, I've found a lot of structures over the years. I've not really been out this year to mount anything, but that's fixing to change. Things are a little more stable in my life at this point. So, I hope I can find some more stuff. But yeah, I found tons of stick structures, and people say, well, you can't prove it's made by Bigfoot. Well, when there's a big 14-inch foot track beside it, you got a pretty good determination of what made it, especially when it's way off the beaten path where nobody would just be back roaming around.
And in these areas, where are the ones where you discovered more of these tracks and evidence? What cities and towns around Kentucky?
Most of my research takes place in Harlan County, but I do some in Bell County, but most of it's been in Harlan County, Kentucky. And as you know, Expedition Bigfoot has been up there, and Expedition X, which is a TV show I was on recently, would come to the area and film for, I don't know, I guess they stayed a week or longer. in this area, filming and interviewing people and things like that.
How was that experience being on that show?
I liked it. It was I've turned down shows before, but I like Josh Gates, and I've always respected what he tries to do. Yeah, I know he injects a little humor and stuff and things, and that's okay. But this opportunity come along, and they was easy to work with. They interviewed me for like over 3 hours, and it was hot, and I gave them a ton of evidence and photographs and videos. Of course, they can't use it all. I use a very small part of it. Then we also gave them an extra witness. I put them in a location. It was a hot spot. But yeah, it was a good experience, and I think the episode overall turned out pretty good. They did mess up some of my stories. There was like 2 or 3 stories they kind of combined into one. But yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of normal with some of these shows. I think to just try to make it exciting for the viewers. But when was that episode released?
It's been about 2 months ago, I guess, maybe. What's called Squatch Above the Rest. I can't remember. It's season 8 episode, season 9 episode 8, something like that. I think is what it is. But yeah, it was a fun deal, man. I put up. Here's something interesting about the show. When they first showed up here, and we was meeting all the crew, and the people come out first, to set everything up. I took them to an area just to scout a little bit, and I told them, you got to come here. This is a good place to come when you do your filming. I was hoping they'd let me go with them, but of course they didn't. And just going into the scouting in the area, we found tracks, and we went maybe a mile. The lady said, "Well, let's not go any further. We don't want to mess anything up." And so they end up going to that area, is my understanding, but I don't think they use very much of it on the actual episode. But who knows? They may use it in something later. But it's a great area, and I know there's Bigfoot in the area because we looked at them through binoculars, me and a friend of mine.
And that's very strange that they wouldn't put that evidence out there, seeing that were these fresh tracks or. Well, let me go back to my question. Were these tracks fresh, or how can you tell a fresh track from one that's been there for a few days or so?
Well, it just takes experience. I mean, of course, if you've got greenery in the track, it's been smashed down and still basically alive, you can tell that kind of that way and how smashed down it is. But yeah, these were fairly fresh tracks. We found them in 2 different locations, and I didn't even get to go all the way to where I really wanted to show them. But it was just a scouting expedition to see, how feasible it was to get the crew in there and do filming and things like that. And once we went just a little ways and we found the tracks, she said, let's turn around. Let's not go any farther because we don't want to, put in too many tracks. And also I should say that I need to thank Tony Filosi, who is also a member of our research group, who helped facilitate all of this. Through his connections and them contacting him where he worked on some other shows with them and things like that. And he's really a big facilitator in getting them here. And they stayed like a week, and they rented boats and they rented 4-wheelers and things like that for the episode. So it also give a boost to our local economy in a way.
I was actually going to ask you how they made the connection between them and you. That's kind of nice now because you've been doing it for so long. I think your reputation, people know who you are.
I don't know. Maybe some people do. Sometimes I do get recognized out. Like it's been a little while. I was out eating, and the wife got through. Of course, it was a buffet. All you can eat, one price, and we got through eating, and I was on the way out, and I heard somebody hollering, "Hey, hey, hey!" And it was a lady. She said, "Aren't you that guy from those documentary films?" I said, "Yeah, that's me." And occasionally I get recognized, but the field of Bigfoot in general is a rough field. It's hard to get traction. People who hoax or fake or make up fantastic stories, seem like they get more traction than somebody who tries to be honest and really do honest research, or evaluate stuff more of maybe scientifically or through experience, things you already know or you've experienced for years.
I agree, because not only in the Bigfoot scene, but also in paranormal, because you see a lot of these shorts out there. If you're on Facebook, if you're on X, or if you're on TikTok, I'm not on TikTok, but there's hundreds of these things, perhaps thousands, that are just straight up hoaxes.
Oh yeah, and with AI but getting better and better and better, it's even going to be harder to narrow down the real from the fake. And I am on TikTok, and I can tell you this: TikTok is the most censored social media site out there. I know they tried to ban it before, and everybody's talking about how it was kind of free willing and do whatever you want to. Man, I get flagged for simple comments all the time. It's the most censored social media site out there, in my opinion. You say something simple like sharp as a bowling ball, they got me for that. So that was against community standards. And what was the other? Called a guy a clown one time. That's because it was acting kind of stupid, I guess. And I called him a clown and censored. But people could come on my post and call people clowns, and even worse, and nothing ever happens to them. I said, I don't understand it. So, if you do get on TikTok, which it is a good platform, I mean, you can reach a lot of people sometimes. Be careful on your comments, because man, they'll bust you in a heartbeat.
No, man. I'm all over Facebook, X. I have the Gram. I rarely comment a lot of stuff unless I know you, because you never know that there could be some wackadoo out there that's going to take it the wrong way, and they're just going to complain about you until something happens. Yeah. The ones that I've been flagged on have been by their, I guess they use some kind of internal filter, AI filter or something. I don't know. Once you get on the list, I guess it's they look out for you. It's like a no-fly list, man, but for TikTok.
But what can you do?
You just keep making content, brother. Keep doing what you're doing.
The thing is, it's so hard to find time to do content anymore. Since my dad passed away, of course, and my mom's bad sick, I have a lot more work I have to do around the house, of course, just keeping grass up in her yard and on my yard. And plus we've had rain forever. And when it does quit raining, you got to mow grass whether you feel like it or not, because it's going to start raining again tomorrow.
Yeah, we just had, I don't know, a month straight of rain, a couple of days without rain. It's going to rain this weekend as well, and we mowed the lawn a few days ago. It ain't happening this weekend, brother, but I'm quite happy about that, though. I got other things I want to do over this weekend, but mow the lawn.
That's me, man. I could use a break.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, talking about being busy, having all these other things, and life happens, and you're not releasing as much content, making the videos, but you released not long ago a documentary or another film per se. And let's talk about that. What is it called?
It's Almost Live, Bigfoot and Beyond. It is actually a follow-up to seasons 1 and 2 of Almost Live. I had intended on making a season 3 to finish off the whole thing, but I felt like it'd be better to do a movie. I'm more comfortable doing the movie format than I am episodes, because in episodes, sometimes it's hard to get them consistently, like they're all going to be 22 minutes, or something, because you're right in the middle of an investigation or something cool going on. Well, that 22 minutes could be 32 minutes. And so I don't hardly like that aspect of it. So I just turned it into a movie to kind of finish the series off. Even though there's a lot of Bigfoot stuff in it, there's also some historical stuff about the area. And I actually got my wife on camera a little bit with me. She's really camera shy and don't like to do all that stuff of us hiking some of the state parks and talking about some of the things that's happened there and some of the features of that. So it's even if you don't like Bigfoot stuff, I think you could possibly enjoy the movie just for the historical content.
And in that movie, what locations did you film at?
See, we were in Bell County, Kentucky at Pine Mountain State Park, and we were in several locations in Harlan County. One place which was Cranks Creek Lake, and we do a little history on it in the movie.
And how long did it take you from top to bottom to finish this movie?
Well, some of the footage has been archived for the last 3 years with all that's been going on. It's kind of been backlogged. I've probably got easily 5 to 7 films backlogged now that I've just not had time to edit.
Wow.
We got one that we filmed last year. Where it was in Kentucky, in McKee. We went and stayed on a farm overnight that's had Bigfoot activity for years. And we captured some really interesting audio. We had a lot of new equipment we was using. We flew a drone. We had parabolic mic, night scopes, and night vision stuff. I mean, it's a really interesting story, and got several interviews that go along with that. And I'm hoping that I can get that turned out by the end of the year. No promises, but I'm hoping I can.
And how many films have you done so far?
Oh, gee, I don't know. There's a bunch. There's probably 20 or more, not counting the little TV episodes and things like that I've done for, with other people or whatever. Just like Expedition X, and also I'm on an episode of Haunted Discoveries, which is also some guys that live in Kentucky, and they've been here quite a bit. Good guys. That was a fun episode, and they'll probably be back in again and do some stuff. Maybe I'll get to hang out with them again.
I'm sure you will, man, because at least for me, when I think about cryptids, whether it's Bigfoot or it's paranormal or anything like that, I got to talk to Thomas about it.
Well, I appreciate that. It dominates my life. I mean, maybe that's bad to say, but there's not a day goes by that I don't think about Bigfoot.
Well, interesting that you bring that up. I've talked to somebody about this the other day, and I don't quite remember the name of the person in this story because it might have been multiple people. And maybe you know what I'm talking about. There was a story I read once. I don't remember if it was in a book or because I do watch a lot of documentaries on YouTube. And there was a story about a guy where he had his first Bigfoot experience. His life changed after that. He became obsessed with trying to have another experience. And I don't know how many decades he went out there and did the exploring, the investigating. But it got to the point where he was so obsessed with having another experience that it ruined his marriage and his family. But it was almost like he was addicted to this venture. I'm not saying to the extreme of you, my friend, but I'm saying does that seem like something that would happen?
100%. Just think about it in terms like you've been told maybe your whole life that it's all fabricated, it's not real, there's no such thing, and then you find out that it is real. There's really something to this phenomenon. So it just gets your wheels cranking, man, and you want to learn all you can about it. And there's not a day goes by that I don't think about Bigfoot. Even in probably the worst time of your life, I still have moments where I think about Bigfoot. So I totally understand being obsessed with it. I've said this for years too, that there's something about Bigfoot that drives people nuts. I've said that many times, and I've seen a lot of them just kind of get way out in left field on some things, and I don't know, is it due to them being obsessed with it, or like you say, wanting to have another experience, or what? But it definitely can affect you mentally, and it becomes kind of, I guess, in some ways like a drug, addictive to you.
And that's what I was thinking about. And I didn't want to say, well, like somebody who's hooked on certain drug, but in a way it is now similar, my friend, when I've had different guests and I've read the books as well. people who've had experiences with UFOs, whether it's an abduction or actually seeing them in the sky, it's a life-changing event, and that's all they're obsessed with UFOs.
Yeah, I totally get it, because see, that was my first experience with UFOs back when I was real young, probably 8, 10-year-old, somewhere around that area. And from there, it kind of grew into hearing stories that my mom and dad and family would tell about ghosts and hauntings and seeing weird stuff. And then over time, it grew into Bigfoot. But yeah, it's the thing is with UFOs. Sometimes there is an effort to discredit people and kind of turn them, make them loopy, make them nuts. What was the movie Mirage Man, I think it was called? It's they actually talk about that their goal was to discredit people and make them really lose their mind. And one guy, I reckon he did. They put him in the insane asylum and all kinds of stuff.
That's an incredible story.
It's called Mirage Man, I think it's called.
Wow.
It used to be on Amazon. If you get a chance, you may want to check it out.
Oh, I definitely will. I think I watch at least 2 or 3 documentaries a week. Not straight, because what I do them in pieces. And then, which kind of helps me sometimes, like, if I'm going to do an episode on a certain subject or write about it, let me go do my own research as well. It's very helpful. I mean, some are better than others, but I really admire people that can go out there and put their name on the line and get on camera, not only tell these stories, but actually put a film out, because I think there's a lot of risk to this as well, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, everybody's a critic, and what a lot of people don't realize, a person like me, I'm my worst critic. A lot of the stuff, the first film I ever made was filmed with like a $20 camera, so you grow as you get more films on your belt, you do more projects, you learn and grow. And sometimes I'm asked about, how do I start making films? Just do it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the negativity that you get from people. Just do it, learn, and go to the next project, and learn a little bit more and go to the next project. And eventually you get to where you can turn out something that people can almost watch.
No, I understand, because my first couple years as a podcaster, if I were to listen back, I was like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? But, you got to be somewhat kind of brave to put out content nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, you do, because the critics are, man, they're everywhere. And they'll, of course, being from the South, in case you didn't notice, how it's kind of talk a little bit Southern. Of course, that's one of the first things they hit you on, is that how you talk. Or then the next thing it hits you on is because you're overweight, or something like that, Then out of that, they find out that the content is maybe something that's wrong with it. So you just got to let it go on. You can't make everybody happy, and you just got to try to, do what your passion is, do the best you can at it, learn, go to the next thing, and get a little better each time.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a fair share of those, but normally it's just hot pocket eating guys sitting in grandma's basement. They're not going anywhere. Instead of doing something positive, they just try to tear down what everybody else is doing. And
sometimes I ask them, I say, well, give me a link to your film. Yeah, let me see your film. See how yours is, so you can see how it's done.
Listen, I'm not going to believe anybody's Bigfoot story unless they have a Southern accent. I'm telling you that.
Well, my dad never believed in Bigfoot. He always kind of blew it off, poked a little bit of fun at me over the years, and then he actually saw Bigfoot. And my dad told me, he said, man, it destroyed me. He said, every time I get in the woods, I want to look for Bigfoot stuff. And he did go out with me some. Then, of course, his heart stuff got bad, which we ginsenged all the way up to almost till he left here. But we was always looking for Bigfoot tracks or stick structures or something like that all the time, every time he got out from there on in.
See, I knew there's something to this. There's got to be, and I'll throw my theory out there. There has to be some sort of, and I'm going to use this word, supernatural. There's got to be something supernatural about some sort of experience like that, where it leaves some sort of, I'm going to use the term mental scar, where not only you're not going to forget, but you're going to keep searching for this thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a big, I guess you call it a rift in the Bigfoot community between whether they got Bigfoot can do supernatural things or whatever. And I've never been a proponent of that because I hadn't experienced that. Notice I said I hadn't experienced that. Well, in this new film, there's a couple of things that happened over those 2 or 3 years that I can't explain it. So maybe there's a little more on that end. I still think they're flesh and blood creature. I don't think, my personal opinion, I don't think they're interdimensional because it doesn't make sense for me. But now if I see something that changes my mind, I don't care a bit to say, hey man, I was wrong about that. There's a little more to it. And the reason it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me about them going through portals and things like that, why would they choose to sleep here in a cave or on the ground if they could open a portal and go back to their bed? Just don't make sense to me.
No, I mean, when you put it like that, it makes better sense. Now, I've heard different opinions where how they travel. I'm more of the person that thinks they travel through caves or an underground tunnel system. Very believable if they're a flesh and blood creature. If it's a supernatural, more paranormal, or some sort of tie to UFOs, I can see where somebody would say a portal of some sort. In my opinion, I've yet to see a connection between a Bigfoot, flesh and blood, and a UFO. And I know there's reports out there where sometimes when people have seen UFOs, a Bigfoot sighting follows it. I'm of the mind of if something lands in my backyard, if I'm Bigfoot, I want to go check out and see what this thing is. I don't think it necessarily came from the ship or that their Bigfoot is there to search for things for the aliens, but that's just my opinion on that.
That's what I think too. I think that, or the possibility that there's a resource in the area that both UFOs use and maybe Bigfoot is a draw to too. Who knows? Could even filter in ley lines and things like that, magnetic anomalies or anything that, there may be a host of reasons why Bigfoot and UFOs are seen in, the same area. But as far as seeing Bigfoot coming out of a UFO or driving a UFO or anything like that, I don't know of any reports of that, but there was one in Ohio where a UFO landed and there was a couple Bigfoot seen standing off next to the wood line looking at the UFO. But, I don't mean they was directly connected to the UFO. They was just curious of what it was and what was going on probably.
Yeah, no, it's just like normal human beings. They see something outside. They're either going to peek through the blinds or they're going to go outside and take a gander at what's going on.
Yeah. That's how I feel about it too. But now, things could happen that changes my mind. But I've been doing this for almost 30 years or around 30 years. And I've had some weird experiences in the woods. But the things that I put in this video, the movie, that's the most bizarre things I've had happen that I can't explain. Does it mean that they jump through a portal? No, it don't necessarily mean that. But even if they're not interdimensional, that doesn't mean that they don't have some kind of heightened awareness or sense where they can do things. If they use infrasound, of course, which, a lot of animals use that to communicate over long distances. What is their range? What can they actually do with it? Can they stop game cameras or recorders or whatever? So, there's a lot of factors we don't know. And sadly, we don't have enough people who are boots on the ground researchers checking into these kind of things.
Yeah, and there's something to that because when it comes, you've heard this 1,000 times, 1,001 times probably, where people report seeing something. Well, where's your picture? Well, listen, if you're just walking somewhere, something pops up, you're going to be fidgeting with your camera trying to find it. If you're not scared of running, by the time you get it, it might be blurry because your hand's shaking or the thing is running out somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, we hear that pretty often. Well, like I got an iPhone, If it's on a blank screen, it's going to take me several seconds to get that open and get it up to the camera. By then, the thing's done gone. I don't know how many people have actually seen these things move. Man, they move so smooth. It kind of, and they're fast, but it's so smooth looking. It's almost like it's a ghost kind of thing. I don't know if maybe more people have seen ghosts than they have Bigfoot, but to see one move, it is just so smooth and so fast. It's no wonder that people have a hard time photographing it or getting pictures. But now I do have a game cam picture, one I got back in 2013. They say you can't catch on a game cam, but you can. It was just, I think it was unaware the game camera was there. And it was kind of maybe surprised that that's how I got it, by surprise, kind of, because I've tried it a lot since then, and I've not got it again. But I have got, in the last movie, there's something weird happens in it that deals with the game cam. That is probably some of the best evidence I've actually captured.
And with capturing Bigfoot on film or on camera, when people finally catch this thing on camera, sometimes cameras have a hard time filming this thing. And I'm not talking about, because I know I talked about earlier about fidgeting in the camera and not having it ready. Is there a possibility, we just throw out a theory out there, where Bigfoot may emit some sort of energy that can maybe mess with the electronics? Would this change it more from a flesh and blood to a more of a supernatural being, but still be flesh and blood at the same time?
Well, very possible, I would say. I mean, if you could, if somehow they could do the EMF field, if they could manipulate it some way, that could possibly cause interference, cause it to cut off or whatever. And who knows how great their infrasound is. Elephants, I think crocodile lines and things like that use that, and it travels for miles to communicate with one another. What would it be if it was something that was up close and that as large as a Bigfoot? What could it do to a game camera or a handheld device or something?
So, other than Bigfoot, what else have you seen out there? Because I know the woods can be full of many dangers, because you have big cats, you might have snakes depending on what part of the country you're at, you have spiders, you have bugs, you have these giant ticks. What other dangers have you encountered in the woods?
Well, I was telling you about the farm where we didn't stay all night at the farm. Tony and I were covered in the little red deer ticks, and we were covered with chiggers. We was able to get rid of the ticks fairly easily, but the chiggers, man, a month, 2 months later, we were still digging and scratching. I mean, that's something you can't really see, and you get them and you know about it. But we got venomous snakes here too, rattlesnakes, copperheads, things like that. Been all over them many times. We have bears. Been face to face with a mama bear and 4 cubs. Bigfooted in a tornado one time. Yeah, no kidding. We didn't know the tornado was coming, but yeah, we was up on Cumberland Gap State Park. We're in Tennessee, Kentucky border there. We're in Virginia also butts up with it, and we're in the mountains, and you can hear the tornado sirens going off down in the city. And sure enough, a tornado hit just several miles. That's the way the crow flies from where we were at. So there's they say we don't have big cats here, but we do. I've seen a panther. They say we don't have wolves, but I've found their tracks, and I know people who have actually saw them. So there's a lot of dangers out there. And spiders, man, I don't like spiders. I've been bit by spiders a lot. Usually if I go out in the woods, I get bit by spiders pretty often. And the one thing I don't like to find in the woods is rats or mice. I don't know why. I just don't like fooling with them. It's even worse if they're in the house. I can deal with them a little bit more in the mountain, but if a mouse or something's in the house, I'm not going to fool with it.
No, you don't want what they bring with it either. Now,
No.
you mentioned bears.
Yes.
And I'm trying to be humorous here, but at the same time trying to make a point. What are the likelihoods? And I already know the answer to this, but I want to hear it from you, if you don't mind,
Mm-hmm.
of mistaking a bear and a Bigfoot. I think that's a little bit impossible. Because everybody always says, oh, you saw a bear. I was like, bro, I know the difference.
Well, there may be some people who wouldn't might mistake one for a Bigfoot. But if you get a decent look at it, you can definitely tell a bear, the pointy ears and the snout and all that kind of stuff. But now I will tell you this, in my area, southeastern Kentucky, predominantly our Bigfoot reports are of very black, dark Bigfoot, which are very, very similar to a bear color. But if you've ever seen a bear in the woods, and then you compare that to seeing a human in the woods, there's really no comparison. There's no way to really, I don't see how they can mix it up very often, unless you just get a fleeting view of one or something as it goes over a bank or something like that. You may mistake it for something else or wishful think it was something else. But if it was true that if people were mistaking bears for Bigfoot, I think we would have way more reports, and we'd probably have way more accidental shootings of people. Oh, I thought it was a bear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you better wear that orange vest, man. But this is why I say that. I lived on a mountain for about 5 years before I moved to the West Virginia mountains area. And at the time I was living with somebody, and they thought it was a very smart thing to leave a 20-pound bag of bird feed outside the house, right? And then one night I see all this bird feed everywhere. I was like, what in the world happened? And this person said, well, they're my teenagers. You know how they're always causing trouble. I go, this is not a teenager. Next night, I'm coming up on my driveway. It was a long driveway. Damn it if it wasn't a black bear. And the reason I say that, because I seen a bear up close. No way I can mistake it for a Bigfoot. But it's possible.
No, if you've ever seen a bear very often, it'd be very hard to mistake for a humanoid figure. We've got 2 bears right here in our local community that roam around. So we see them pretty often here around the house.
And are they black bear or a different kind of bear?
No, they're black bear. One of them's really big, and then the other one's a little bit smaller. It actually went through my garden. I have a foot track casting of it in there. Got to clean up. It stepped on one of my pepper plants. And the thing is, we got dogs, out there, and he went within just a few feet of the dogs, and I know the dogs were barking at it, but they didn't care,
Yeah, my experience with the bear, it wasn't a negative one. I just didn't step out the car because that was the very first time I ever seen one in person. I didn't want to take a chance.
I've had 2 negative experiences with bears. The mother bear that I was face-to-face with, when I say face-to-face, I was probably 5-6 feet apart, me and her. I'd been down digging ginseng and I heard something coming through the woods. And I stood up, and there was a big giant rock there beside me, and it stepped around the rock. And me and her looked each other right in the eyeballs. And she had all those cubs with her. And I just sort of motioned with my hand, said, you get out of here. And she turned and went back on up the mountain, and one of the cubs went up a tree there real close to me. But I stayed in that area and dug ginseng probably for an hour or longer, and I could hear them up in there moving around, but they didn't bother me. But in basically that same area, about 2 years ago, I had a big bear stalking me. If it hadn't stepped on a twig and broke it, it would have been right on top of me. And he was actually hiding in behind a tree and looking around it. And I ended up firing my pistol at it just to make it, not actually at it, just, make a noise and to have it run off. And it went off a little ways and it looked at me. But it was a big bear. And then I had a small cub. Well, it wasn't a full grown bear. It was still a young bear. I had it trying to sneak up on me one time too. And again, it stepped on a twig and popped it. And I was able to turn around. It was pretty close to me.
So you got pretty lucky, in a way.
Yeah, I was used to. I never would pack a pistol or anything in the woods. I just had a little pocket knife. But our bear population in this area has also exploded. And I had a friend who had a mama bear get after him. And so out of that, I started carrying a pistol, and that's been several years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's a smart thing to do going out in the woods. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Four-wheeling, hiking, you should always carry a firearm. If not, to at least fire a couple shots in the air so people know where you're at. I think that's something recommended, right?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I had a friend about 2 years ago. He had wrecked his four-wheeler and broke his leg, and he couldn't get back to his four-wheeler, and he shot his pistol. Well, he actually shot it till he ran out of bullets, and they ended up finding him right at like dark, a little bit out of dark. But yeah, if he hadn't had that, who knows? It may have been a long time to find him. Older gentleman too, so.
Yeah, you're in pretty bad shape. And then, before we go, my friend, if a person comes into contact with a Bigfoot or has a sighting, before they go out in the public and talk about it on social media, or if they have a picture or so, what recommendation would you have for them to report one?
Well, in my opinion, you need to find somebody that's actually a real researcher that you can trust, that maybe even know a little bit. Report it to them. Let them check it out. If you're not careful, if you just throw it out there and you give the exact location, you'll have everybody who's interested in Bigfoot on your property or wherever you saw it at. And some of these people now, I know, have run people off their own property or out of their own areas. Say a researcher invites another researcher in to visit and research. That visiting researcher would run the person off their own property. All of them's not good guys. So you have to be careful, but I would recommend getting with somebody that you trust, or somebody that's got a good reputation, who is actually boots on the ground kind of guy. A lot of these guys are not really boots on the ground guys. If you see them wearing shorts and flip-flops while they're in the woods, to me, that's kind of a red flag. They're not really going far. That don't mean they may not be knowledgeable to some degree, but they're not really doing much exploring. Where I live at, and where where you live at, if you go through the mountains in a pair of shorts and flip-flops, you're going to get tore up.
Yeah. You're not going to survive the woods wearing Crocs, man.
No, you got to have proper footwear and be ready. I go in some dangerous areas, and a lot of times I'm by myself. Rocks and snakes and bears and who knows all what. And if I fall and I'm hurt, I better be prepared for that. I better have some stuff with me there where I can take care of myself for a little while, or maybe try to get some help, shoot a gun, or build a fire, or whatever. If I'm in a pair of Crocs and a pair of shorts, it's not going to happen.
No, you're not going to get deep in the woods at all. And for the listeners of Let's Find Out, that they want to see your latest film and also download themselves Mysteries Unlimited Kentucky, where can they go find out?
Well, now you can find my books on Amazon, of course. Barnes & Nobles has a few of them, but mostly Amazon is where most of our book sales and traffic comes from. And as far as the movies, I have a ton of movies on Tubi, the Roku channel, Apple TV. This latest movie, which is Almost Live, Bigfoot and Beyond, you can find it on our actual YouTube channel, and it's on Stash TV, and it's coming to several other streaming services, hopefully pretty soon. But yeah, if you'll just get on Tubi or something like that, you can find a lot of my films. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But they're just scattered basically all over the place. You can go to my Internet Movie Database page and see a whole list of things that I've done and been on. And like Expedition X is probably the biggest thing I've been on as far as a national television type show. Hopefully people watch that. If not, you can probably find it on Discovery Plus or something like that.
And they can also learn more about you, your books, and your films on zombiemedia.com as well, right?
Zombiemediapublishing.com or thecryptocrew.com, or you can actually find me on Facebook. I'm pretty approachable. If you treat me with respect, I'll be respectful to you, and I don't care to help people if I can. But sometimes people won't let you help them, you know.
That's all right. You know, you are very approachable. You're always willing to help everybody that contacts you, and I appreciate that. And let's not go another 4 years without actually talking face to face, because it's been 4 years since I've actually talked to you, and I'm happy to have you on. And I know that I bug you 2-3 times a week on Messenger, but you know, we're having fun every time.
Man, I'm glad you had me back on, and I hate it's been this long. You know, I'm glad to see you're getting out and doing some events and stuff. And I know me and you had talked about that, about getting out and meeting people. And I like doing that occasionally, but used to I would do presentations and things at some of these events. And I've been invited to do some here recently, actually. But my schedule is so all over the place. I don't know really from one day to the next what I'm going to be able to do and not do. And plus, I lost my presentation. It's got corrupted on my computer, so I need to totally redo it. But I still may show up at an event or two just to look around, maybe not be a speaker or nothing like that, just to nose around and look.
That's what I do. I usually try to limit the amount of stuff I buy, because I don't know if listeners can't see it, but if you see behind me, these are things I pick up at the shows and stuff, and sometimes it kind of hurts the wallet a little bit, but it's part of the fun. I get to meet other people and have them on the show, so that's what it's all about. And Thomas, my friend, I really appreciate being on the show, and I'd like to bring you back again later this year. Let's catch up some more.
Yeah, man, just hit me up, and if it's feasible, I don't care a bit to come back on. I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to you, and I enjoy talking about this stuff, and I know you do too. So like-minded people kind of need to hang together and support each other.
Thank you, my friend.
Copyright Diego the Podcaster. All content for Let's Find Out is the property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out with Diego is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.